When Doctor Who Series 8 ended, I made a post on my then review blog where I talked about my feelings regarding the new Doctor and his character. Basically, I created what I called the TARDIS test, where I tried to determine whether or not I would trust this Doctor enough to get on the TARDIS and travel through time with him. And I concluded that I didn't. And that is not because I dislike Capaldi as the character. That is not because I don't feel like he works as the Doctor. In fact, a lot of the things that Capaldi's version of the Doctor says, I could imagine just as easily coming out of the mouths of Matt Smith or David Tennant or virtually any other actor who has played the Doctor, not just in the modern iteration of the series, but throughout the entire show. It's more the way he treats people. The Doctor has been dismissive of people before, but he's also always managed to find some kind of wonder in people, to relate to people on some admittedly alien level, but he still relates to them nonetheless, and this version of the Doctor never did. And while part of that is just his personality, he is just more crass than some previous versions of the Doctor have been, especially recent ones, some of that seems to stem from his psychology. First of all, this version of the Doctor is actually the Doctor's first of hopefully many extra regenerations beyond the number of regenerations that come naturally to a Time Lord as part of their biology. It was granted to him by the other Time Lords, as a reward for fighting to protect them for the majority of the lifespan of his last regeneration. And while I'm absolutely sure that the Doctor is grateful for this, it had to have impacted him on a psychological level. First of all, this regeneration was incredibly hard on his body. We see that he releases more energy during this regeneration than he ever has before, and the impact on his body after the fact is noticeable for several days. But that's all physiological. I said that there were psychological impacts. Understand that there is one Time Lord that the Doctor has always been closest to, and that is the Master. A person who is simultaneously the Doctor's best friend and mortal enemy. The Doctor and the Master know each other better than they know anyone else, or at least they think they do. I'm not entirely convinced that they actually do, but that's a topic for an entirely separate video. My point is, the only other Time Lord, at least that we know of, and likely that the Doctor knows of, if there are any more at all in the first place, who has ever regenerated past their final regeneration, is the Master. And just like the Doctor, the Master managed to live on past the end of his life thanks to the Time Lords. They regenerated him to fight in the Time War. And ever since then, the Master has been certifiably insane. It makes sense that the Doctor would come out of this new regeneration worrying that he is now more like the Master than he has ever been, and that might affect the way that he thinks and behaves. And we did get some confirmation of that in the Series 8 finale, where the Doctor and the Master confront each other, and the Doctor comes to the conclusion that it doesn't really matter how similar they are, he's still the Doctor. And while I had hoped that would be the end of the storyline, that it would only last a single series, that didn't actually turn out to be the case. Now, granted, he did start to act more, I would say, Doctor-ish after that point. He did try to correct some of his more crass behaviors, but he still had one problem, and that's his companion, Clara Oswald. Now, again, I don't dislike Jenna Coleman and I don't dislike Clara. But as close as the Doctor has been with previous companions, there has never been another companion that the Doctor has been this close to. Clara risked her entire existence to be reborn throughout the Doctor's entire time stream on the off chance that she might be able to help him from time to time when an enemy tried to unravel the Doctor's entire life. And while it doesn't seem like she remembers everything that happened during all of her time in those other lives, and while it doesn't seem like the Doctor was aware of her throughout his time stream and therefore he doesn't know exactly what impacts she had on his life, there is now a bond between them that this event has created. A bond that, unfortunately, we as the viewers never got to see form. It exists. It's real. The characters act upon it. But we didn't get to see it, so at least from my perspective, it doesn't feel realistic. The Doctor would go to the ends of the universe and beyond for Clara because he feels such a strong connection with her thanks to this event. But because we didn't personally witness the event, and because we aren't personally sharing a psychology with the Doctor, we're left sitting at home wondering why the Doctor is doing these out-of-character things for this girl that he wouldn't have even done for characters such as Rose that he was madly in love with. And Clara, for all of her good qualities, because she knows the Doctor so well, she's stopped questioning his alien behaviors until they reach the absolute extreme, and she's even started enabling some of his behaviors as well. Yes, when he does something that's genuinely awful, like when he left her alone to decide the fate of the entire Earth in the worst episode of anything that I've ever seen, Kill the Moon, she did raise hell over it. But in the recent mid-season finale, and that's why I love this episode so much, because it's a little microcosm of why their relationship doesn't work. In that episode, even after the Doctor killed a person, Clara, after learning everything that he had been through, she stopped calling him out on his bad behavior. One of the core aspects of the companion character has to be that they call the Doctor out, acting as his conscience when his conscience fails, and Clara has stopped doing that. And this all stems from the fact that the modern version of Clara Oswald was reunited with the Doctor through the intervention of the Master. Missy knew that this would happen. She was trying to make the Doctor more like her in a point in his life where he was already vulnerable to that happening. And if that isn't evidence enough that he and Clara should not be together, I don't know what is. And while this storyline was dragged out for a year and a half, while I am very glad that it's finally over and it seems like the Doctor is returning to something more similar to past iterations of his character, just with a little bit of Peter Capaldi flavor sprinkled on top, I do think that this was a very effective storyline and a very effective character study of the Doctor, of exactly who he is and what it means to be the Doctor. And based on the writing in the most recent Christmas special, it definitely seems like the show is on the right track now to establish Capaldi as someone who has overcome this psychological block preventing him from becoming his own Doctor, and that he is well on his way to becoming his own Doctor. Not his own character in general, but his own version of the Doctor specifically, because the Doctor means something very specific. The Doctor, in and of itself, is an oath that Capaldi's Doctor has finally renewed. And while I haven't revised my TARDIS test yet, while I'm still not sure that I would trust this version of the Doctor enough to take me through time, I definitely feel like it's a possibility again for the first time since Capaldi stepped onto the screen. I am really looking forward to seeing where the show goes from here and what Capaldi's Doctor is actually really like. But as usual, guys, I ask you, what do you think about what I've said in this video? What do you think so far of Capaldi's version of the Doctor? Let's get a discussion going in the comment section down below. Either way, this has been AJ22, and I will talk to you guys later.